Welcome to the Verts podcast. I'm your host, as always, Sonny Weaver. So EA Play is over, and we've got a good idea of what's going on with Madden 17. Obviously, if you've been searching around the internet, you've heard your reviews, you've heard feedback from people who got to play the game. Hopefully, you've listened to our very own DK's thoughts and ideas there about what he saw while at EA Play, and I hope all of you guys are following along with the Madden Bomber League, as we've provided some pretty good content here from EA. You know, there's not a lot left to be said about what's been released as features, but I think there's a lot left to be said about how the general public handled those features. We've had a couple weeks of the blogs that led up to the release at EA Play, and so what is always interesting is how do people handle the excitement of getting what they want and the disappointment of not getting what they want. What I find interesting is there's certain people that believe that if they don't get the one feature they're really looking for, that the game's a complete flop. And what I don't understand about that is you've got a good portion of the community that believes themselves to be hardcore gamers, right? And so they claim that EA only caters to the casual fans, but that's kind of counterintuitive to what EA's approach was this year. If anything, EA this year truly embraced the hardcore gamer, and instead of going for the fluff piece, the sizzle features that the marketing department could really push, they went back and stripped it down and rebuilt a lot of the behind-the-scenes mechanics that truly are what are going to separate, in my opinion, this game from all other football games that we've ever seen. Yet, if you look at some of the reviews and some of the comments, you would think that they didn't do anything. The reality is they may have made the biggest overhaul in EA history as far as this platform, this game, and we've got people that look at it as a complete waste of a year. What's interesting about that is, do you know what kind of gamer you really are? I think we've got to ask ourselves, what kind of gamer are we before we start trying to ask EA who they're really catering to? Because I think part of the problem is a misclassification of what it is we are. I know that I do tend to think of myself as a hardcore gamer, so I feel like the mechanics to really build on the game are huge advancements. I don't think Madden was that far off. I think there's certain things within the game that are very frustrating to someone who's played a long time. And so the ability to keep running the same play over and over repetitively, that's a problem I have. I don't like that, and I think a lot of people don't like that, and I think as long as there's an AI that can be manipulated, people are going to find a way to break that. But what we've seen from Clinton Rex is a concerted effort to try to get that out of the game. And so you look at some of the gap play, and you look at the new zones, and you look at what they've done as far as that goes. That could be the biggest advancement we've ever seen. But to some people, that's barely anything. To some people, they want to harp on things like you don't have team play in there. Well, how good is team play if the mechanics behind what you're playing are broke? My answer to that is it's not very good. So while people say team play is not there, I'm not getting this game. Really, what is it you want? Do you want the feature or do you want the game? It's just a really weird dynamic that's really developed over the last couple years, and I think it's highlighted by the whole MUT versus Sim/CFM community, and it's almost like a division amongst the game. We're dueling each other saying, they're getting a feature, they're getting a feature, we're not getting treated, we're not getting equal representation. But the reality is this year, what they did was they stripped it down. They're building the foundation for a game that's going to allow all of the features, all of the functions to really prosper. And so I think as a community, we have to realize that the effort had to be put in. Some people don't consider the fact that this is a game that's put out every year. It's not a game. It's not a Elder Scrolls. It's not a Grand Theft Auto that come out every 4 or 5 years where they can actually go and strip it down and rework everything in the back end of the game. They are on a set deadline that only allows so much advancement. So what I see from the development team is truly that effort to fix the foundation, to truly push forward, and it couldn't be done until they took a year to do it. And I would be willing to bet that they had to fight their bosses to do that, because marketing didn't get the sizzle feature this year. They didn't get the fluff. They didn't get the easy to sell to the casual fan new feature that's going to make you run out and buy Madden. Really, if you're not a Madden fan already, nothing they did this year really should excite you. I mean, from an outside looking in, nothing they're adding is something that's going to make someone who's never played Madden go out and buy the game because now they got gap play, because they didn't know there was something wrong with the gap play before. That is an investment in the community that's already here. That's not EA selling out. That's not EA playing to the casual fan. You know, there's a group that likes to say, well, Mutt's the casual fan. They only care about Mutt because that's where they make all their money. Everybody's benefiting from these features. I think the most overlooked thing is the ball physics. The ball physics is huge. The fact they're not going to snap into receivers' hands. It's not going through people. The fact that tip passes will react organically. Fumbles will react organically. The idea that we're getting closer to real football. And that's the point. We want to play real football. Whether you're Mutt or whether you're Sim, CFM, whatever that may be, you want to play real football. Now, it may be by different standards, but in the end, you want to see things happen like they happen in real life. And a ball snapping through a cornerback into a wide receiver's hand isn't real life. And they've addressed that. And I think it's important that we take notice. Stand up and take notice for that. If you look through Rex's and Clint's Twitter, it's embarrassing as a community. People look at a 10-second clip of a guy completing a toss to the outside, and it may be for some completely different reason, but somebody will point out that this AI reacted a certain way, so obviously the game's the exact same game, it's broke, and they didn't do anything. Now, how fair would it be if I criticize your last year of your work, what you did at work, from 10 seconds clip I saw of what you did? If I put a camera at your work and said, I'm going to take a 10-second clip of something you did and judge everything you've done for the last 12 months, would we hold ourselves to that same standard? I would venture to guess we wouldn't. And I think it's really unfair that people approach the developers as if they're not doing their job. I think this development crew has devoted more time and more effort into trying to get it right rather than just push out fluff content than any developer we've ever seen in the Madden genre. And so when you look at that, I think that kind of leads into my next point. We like to hold the sins of our fathers against the current developers. We like to look back at past development teams and say, same old Madden, it'll be the same game, they don't really care to get it right. This crew's not been there very long. I know after Rex talked at EA Play, he mentioned his long-term plan, and somebody's response to that was, it's the same thing, 3-year, 5-year plan, that's all we keep hearing. The reality of business, the reality of development is you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan and you're just swimming through the ocean without a rudder, you're not going to go anywhere. And so to say it's the same thing, yes, it's the same thing. It's the same thing at EA, it's the same thing at Madden, it's the same thing at Apple, it's the same thing at Microsoft. Anywhere you go, they're going to have a plan. And when a new guy comes in, guess what? That plan's going to change. And so we're in Rex's plan, and he's got us going in the right direction. And we've seen some huge advancements, and let's not sugarcoat it. We've had some hiccups along the way. Who can forget the release last year? We had some major issues, but what you have to appreciate is the development team stuck around and they got it right. It took them time, but they got it right. And then they proceeded to continue to try to get it right throughout the course of Madden 16. They didn't just cut bait at a point and just say, the game is the game, we got to get going on the next one. What you saw was a concerted effort by a development team to make it right. When I am wronged in life, all I can hope is to be made right. And these guys are taking the effort to make it right. So you must appreciate what they're doing. They were doing development and updates through January. We've never seen that happen in a Madden franchise release since its development. The development team has been open and receptive to your comments. But what you can't do, and what we as a community can't do, and we can't turn off the development team, because this may be the best development team we've ever had. We cannot be attacking them. We cannot be charging in. We can't let the 2K cult run in and start, chopping them down with the rose-colored glasses, with these crazy expectations. We have to appreciate these guys for what they are and what they've done, why they've been there, and where they're headed. So the 2K cult's an interesting idea here too, that if I'm the development team, that's got to be the most frustrating part of being in Madden. We as a society look back fondly at history that we were involved in. And let me give you an example of that. A lot of our generation playing this game probably grew up with a TV show they loved. And when they were young, they loved this show, and they like to fondly think back to that show and say, man, that was a great show. They don't make shows like that today. Now, here's what I want you all to do right now. I challenge you to think of that show in your head. If you want, go ahead and write it down. I then want you to go out to Netflix. I want you to go out to YouTube. I want you to go find an episode. And I want you to sit there and you watch that whole episode. And then go look in the mirror and tell yourself that show was even close to as good as you think it was when you were a little kid. The reality is, it's not. We all come to a point in life when we realize things weren't as great as they used to be, at least the way we thought they were. 2K may have been a great game. It may have been ahead of its time, but folks, it's gone, and it's not coming back. And to blame the current development team as if they had something to do with that, it's really unfair and setting up unfair expectations. The development team had nothing to do with that. Let's be honest. And there's mixed reaction as to who actually demanded that there was a single license. Some say EA. Some say it was actually the NFL. I tend to believe it was the NFL because if you look at the oversight the NFL wants to have over these games, they don't want to manage that over 2 games. Why would they split the revenue? If you only have 1 game, you're going to get the same revenue as if you had 2 and you split an audience. So from their standpoint, it's easier to manage. So when you ask why aren't there concussions in the game, that's because the NFL tells them they're not allowed to put concussions in the game. Why aren't there off-field behavioral issues in the game? Because the NFL says you can't have off-field behavioral issues in the game. So why would the NFL do that twice? So it's easy to point the finger at EA and claim EA is ruining football, right? It's easy to point it at Rex or Clint or whoever and say, you guys are ruining football. This game's not nearly as good as what 2K was. But the reality is, go back and look at 2K and do it. Try to do it as objectively as you can. And that's going to be tough, but try to do that. They had their own issues. They had a lot of the issues that Madden surpassed years ago, but they never really had to conquer a lot of the issues that we see from a connected issue. Madden's really conquered and done really well as far as online gaming, that peer-to-peer gaming of matching people up and playing those games. And that's something that, if you're familiar with the 2K series as far as basketball goes, they struggle with. If you saw the MLB The Show's release this year, their servers had issues. EA does relatively good on that front, and they don't really get any credit for that because they're always hounded as being the only competition in town. Some of the advancements we're seeing EA make, you can say, well, 2K would have done it, but really, have they or would they? It's easy to say something would happen, and you may counter that argument with, well, we'll never know because they're not around. But you can't hold that against this development team. Appreciate the game for what it is. It is an improving game. If you can't see the improvement through the last couple years, then you're holding a grudge and you're never going to be happy. So I think the overarching theme of this whole, some may call it a rant and, monologue, whatever you may be, is before you really cast judgment on the game, cast judgment back at yourself. What are your expectations? It's okay to have high expectations, but are your expectations unattainable? Are you putting the developers in EA with expectations that you wouldn't hold yourself to? And if that's the case, then maybe you really shouldn't be playing this game. Maybe you should go do some self-reflection on you and your life, because I like to think of life pretty simply as I expect others to perform to at least my expectations and try to surpass those. I don't hold people to expectations that I know are unobtainable because I don't expect to be held to unattainable expectations. So I appreciate everybody tuning in to listen to this, and I know this wasn't the Madden 17 review you were probably looking for, but I hope it got you thinking a little bit about Madden 17, EA, and the Madden development cycle. We're in a great time to be in Madden. I'm looking forward to Madden 17, and I can't wait to see some of the things that do come out. And like I said, make sure you check out DK's review here on the NBL Network, as well as some of the other ones, because there's some good stuff out there. But make sure you think about those and keep them in perspective. You haven't gotten a chance to play the game yourself, so hold some of the harsher, more critical judgments till you get a chance to play it yourself. And make sure when you do pick it up, it's a rebuilt foundation. It's going to take time to learn. Something's not broke because you're not good at it right out of the gate. It's going to take time to learn. It's going to be a new Madden. But I think we're heading in the right direction. So if we can all understand that we're heading in the right direction, I think us as a community, we're going to much more enjoy the game and enjoy the ride. Because if you can't enjoy the ride, what's the point? I want to go ahead and thank everybody for tuning in and listening to my rant or monologue, or once again, whatever you guys want to call it. I look forward to hopefully getting you guys some more good content here as we get through the summer, get Rex and Clint and some of the guys there at EA to come on, and we can talk about some of these things and how their approach to development of the game has changed and evolved over the years, because I think that's the biggest thing to understand, is that evolution. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at T4Verts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here at the NBL Network. We're going to have some more great content coming out for you here soon. As always, I've been your host, Sonny Weaver. This has been the 4Verts Podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.